Okay, so Joseph, here we are. I know you quite well. Hopefully, you know me relatively well now as well. But just for the purposes of our audience and our viewers, my name's Mark Walker, and I'm the editorial director of the FinTech Times. Perhaps, Joseph, you could introduce yourself for us.
Sure. So my name's Joseph Ridley, General Manager at Terrapin Middle East, and I look after the Seamless portfolio of events, which basically covers fintech, payments, banking on one side, and then retail and e-commerce on the other side. So we bring these two worlds together for the BFSI community and then also the merchant and retail community.
Wonderful, and we're going to get into that sort of interesting mix a bit later on. But obviously, it would probably not be unfair to say that Seamless is very well known for their amazing Middle East and North Africa shows. Which have obviously, I think we're just coming back off a run of about 3 of them. How have they actually been? Have they been very successful this year, as always?
They have. I mean, we've seen phenomenal growth in the last sort of really 24 months. Following COVID, the events have just gone from strength to strength, and beating pre-COVID records. I mean, the portfolio that we have this year, so the Dubai show ran back in May this year, and that had 21,000 attendees. The KSA event, Saudi Arabian event that we ran in Riyadh just last couple of weeks back, that had 24,000 attendees. The North Africa event that we did, which had been shelved during COVID because of the market and everything, that came back at around 4,500, 5,000 attendees. Africa, we do an event in South Africa as well, Johannesburg, that ran last week with, again, around like 3,000 attendees, bit of a smaller market for that one. And of course, we've got Europe coming up in a couple of weeks' time in Germany. So if you compare those levels to pre-COVID, I mean, they've nearly doubled in terms of their attendance to what they were. So we're seeing a lot of demand.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, events are back. We're all eager and happy to now start going to places, which is really good. It kind of begs the question, as you sort of alluded to there, Europe. It's a new one in your bow. You're kind of stepping out of that Middle East. Why Europe? Why did you feel the need to get there?
But I think ultimately, we sort of, we talk to the market, we talk to our pool of customers, and we figure out where we think we sort of can blend into a community and help give them a platform to reach their customers and bring people together. There is, Europe is very competitive in terms of what we do. There is a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of very specialized events in different sectors, but there's not really one event that brings those two communities together, like I said, in the model that we do it as well, which is to have the free to attend trade exhibition. So our sponsor exhibitors can invite their network of partners, distributors and resellers down, as well as their customers, and then to have the premium level of content, in there as well for, to make sure that we get the top buyers in there. And, I've been with Terrapin for over 20 years now, and I was thinking about it this morning. Cards Europe was actually the first event I ever worked on in Terrapin. But, somewhere along the line that sort of dropped off, and I moved over to Dubai, and so we're sort of going back to it a little bit. But I think there is a lot happening in the European market now. There are certain things that, Europe is very advanced on. And then there are other things that are now starting to come into play, which, gives us a need for sort of knowledge and hopefully networking and connections as the ecosystem basically evolves, over the next sort of 10 years again with some of the things that are coming up.
Yeah, so I guess that kind of leads me nice quietly into the next question, which was like, why now? Why 2023? And why Europe? I'm assuming, I think everyone would be remiss if people think that events get turned on and activated within a couple of months. I guess this has been in planning for quite a while. But why did you decide 2023 was the year to launch it?
I mean, a factor of internal and external reasons. I mean, we were looking at this before COVID. COVID comes along, travel bans come into place. I think not just Terrapin, but I think, a lot of event companies had to really sort of scale back, focus on what was important, and then sort of rebuild the brand. And we're just in a position now where, we have the right resourcing in place. The market and Europe as a whole is sort of relatively back to what it is, back to normal now. COVID's kind of a distant thing, travel's there. So it's a good time to start to build for us, or to put into to plan to action the plan of actually rebuilding or creating this pan-European event. And we did, during COVID, I mean, we sort of shelved the physical project, but we did run a couple of virtual events in this space to help build the brand up and the community, which we did across both the BNPL communities as well as the traditional seamless communities as well. So it has been work in progress for about 3-4 years now.
Mm-hmm. And I guess one of the things I initially thought about it was it's quite a nice platform to kind of bridge the Middle Eastern companies into the European markets. And is that something that you're sort of was also sort of an idea, or is that something that's kind of happened naturally, where a lot of your Middle Eastern companies are going, actually, this could be our route in to investigate the opportunities in Europe?
Yeah, look, it's a little bit by design, but I think also I'm quite surprised at the interest we're getting from the Middle East countries that are looking towards Europe as well, both to benchmark and then obviously create relationships where they can take some of the technologies and some of the ideas and then bring it back into region. But ultimately, when you go obviously high enough within the businesses that we're working with on a day-to-day basis, you're talking to people that are either C-levels or they're head of Europe, Middle East and Africa anyway. So the crossover point isn't, it's actually not, it's not that alien to them to take a brand like Seamish, which they know in one part of the world, understand what we do, how we do it, and then work with us in other, in other parts of the territories that they manage and they're involved with. But just on the, just on sort of the interest from Middle East and Africa, obviously we have a big pool of data that serves, from that marketplace. We're getting inquiries from all the markets where we already run Seamless in, from buyers, regulators, telecom operators, etc., that are saying, well, look, we want to come. How can we get involved in the event? They're not going to be there to showcase or exhibit or anything, but they're interested enough to come across as attendees and see what's going on.
Okay, very. So let's talk about what's actually going to happen in Europe then. So we're a few weeks away. I'm sure it's getting very hectic there, as it always does on the lead up to big events. But what can a delegate expect when they come to Seamless Europe?
As I mentioned before, really, what is at the essence, the kind of the core of Seamless is being able to bring those two communities together. The merchant and retail community that are coming there typically for the retail and e-commerce content, along with the payments and banking and fintech community, the BFSI community, that will offer financial services to that community, and then how they interact. I mean, it's all about the customer journey at the end of the day when you get into it, but what you can expect is multi-track premium conferences that cover everything from identity, payments, banking, fintech, retail, e-commerce, even retail logistics. We go into on one side, digital marketing, like how to elevate brands and things, and then a free to attend, trade exhibition where you can come in, meet some fantastic players that are out in the marketplace right now. And also, we've got we're up to about 150 startups that we've given free space to come along and sort of showcase. Because the other thing that I think is important with our Seamless model is we do try to make it as inclusive as possible for the entire ecosystem. So we do try and support local startups and things to come in and showcase, build their network. It's not an investment event, don't get me wrong, but it's, if you've got a startup that's got a product or a service that they're looking for partners, distributors, or starting to sell direct to a customer, that's the sort of the proposition that we have for those guys.
Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of like you can see it from startup to established company. So there's kind of something for everyone is effectively what you're kind of saying, really.
Yes.
Yeah. And whether you're on that retail merchant side or whether you're on the fintech sort of side of things, there's going to be content that's going to be interesting to you, but also there's the opportunity to meet that opposite number, if you like, on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, the easy crossover point into there is when you start to get into things like financial services, like BNPL, and and that point of sale, point of service interaction that you get between the merchants and the merchants and the financial services industry. But if you look at the the other elements that both industries are looking to understand and sort of harness. It's about opportunities, AI, data, again, the customer experience, customer journey, those touch points, security. So there's a lot of synergy between the two. And the way that we design our programs is to make sure there's content that is relevant for each party. Where it comes together, great. You know, some things are very, very different and have a different, focus. But if we can put something, if we can put a show on that basically helps businesses of all sizes improve their business, then that's a tick for us. That's what we're aiming for.
Fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm going to ask you probably a very difficult question now, which is almost like choosing your favorite child. What is it that you're most interested in, or what do you think one of the most interesting keynotes is going to be, or panels, etc.?
Good question. Good question. And there's a couple of things which I'm looking forward to. There's on the payments and fintech side. There's a presentation which Tomas from Reason, the founder and CEO, he's giving, and that's looking at the Open Digital Bank of tomorrow. So basically, how to build this interconnected financial network to boost collaboration and promote innovative solutions. Basically, another one that we've got, which I think is by Deutsche Bundesbank. Which is looking at how AI and big data is going to basically shape the financial system moving forward. On the retail and e-commerce side, I would say that there is a session that is looking at, it's more of a case study, but looking at how to move a brand from 1P to 3P on Amazon. So just different ways of selling and how you manage that process, taking some of the risk out. That's being given by a company called Pattern from the US, which I think will get a lot of interest as well.
Interesting. It's interesting. My production team are most interested in hearing from the CEO of Domino's Pizza, because that's basically all they eat. So they're very keen on that sort of side of things as well. But it's really interesting as I was looking through the sort of the range of speakers, and it's quite, as you say, it's quite interesting to see some of the biggest names on the retail, sort of Diageo, Debenhams, Delivery Hero, all of the brands that we all know very, very well if you're from Europe, sort of thing. But similarly, on the other side of things, you've got some of the biggest fintech players like Wise, Starling, etc. And then mixed into there as well, you've got all the banks and then the fintech associations around Europe, which is one of the things that I think differentiates the European market to maybe some of the other markets, is just the sheer number of associations and sort of ecosystem connectors in there. So Tony Craddock, for example, from the Payments Association, very well respected and networked sort of thing around Europe, etc. So I guess that as obviously, I don't think I can give you all the credit for it. I'm sure your content team are the ones that have come up with that wonderful mix of all of them. But I guess that was a slightly different sort of setup that they would have had to have done because they had more opportunities, more sort of associations and everything else they could connect with.
That's right. I mean, if you look at the sort of the regions that we work in, I mean, obviously Africa is a huge continent, huge population, but the sort of level of maturity of the ecosystem is further behind than Europe and certainly the Middle East. You look at the Middle East, I think you've got a very advanced ecosystem in many respects. This technological, like this leapfrog, this idea that people have sort of had nothing can kind of jump straight into the next generation of technology and thing. I mean, we can see that, but it is a much smaller market. The GCC market is maybe 45-50 million people max. So Europe, when we start to figure out how we're going to tackle Europe and what does this look like, we can see potentially in a show with hundreds of thousands of attendees in a couple of years. But how do you start to sort of select, pick, build your community and network with those different brands that are really shaping the industry to come up with something new and interesting? And that's the hard part, and it's also the bit that makes it interesting for us. So
yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much all we've got time for today, other than to say looking forward to seeing you on the 18th and 19th in Berlin, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks very much.